right, that's what I do, man. The sounds of the Grandmasters lift off the stress. I don't want nobody stressing me, neither. All right, well, definitely, man, it is the new rhythm on Vivid Streaming, and we do have an esteemed guest with us this morning. Good morning, how you doing?
I am doing well.
All right, wonderful. That is Miss White joining us from the Clair Insititute. Couple of songs about stress and anxiety back to back, and that is the purpose of your institute, correct?
Yes, it is.
Partially.
It is partially, that's correct.
All right, so what's the complete picture of the services of Clair Insititute?
So the Clair Insititute is really concerned about individuals and four main tenets. One, homelessness.
Okay.
Individuals in need of mental health counseling,
right.
So the underserved population.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking also about individuals who are recently released from prison,
mm-hmm.
and those individuals who experience substance use disorder.
All right, now, all very important
Yes.
and really hits home with what happened in the last couple of weeks on St. Thomas specifically.
Absolutely.
Now, a homeless home is something that I sung about many, many years ago. And still, I feel like it's 20 years now. And we still don't really have one. How far off are we from a facility like that? And what will it take to get it done?
So for the homeless,
Yeah.
it is, I would say it's a task, and partially because of all the different challenges we experience with individuals simply coming together,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we get a facility, that would say that we do have a problem. This is the American paradise.
You feel that's the issue? That we don't want to admit that we have a problem?
I think it
because
is.
we obviously have a problem.
It is part of the issue, but I think a bigger concern is really for homeless individuals. Many of them have mental health disorder.
Right.
That's a main challenge, and also the cost of living here is
Right.
is really high, and so individuals who were able to survive previously, it's a lot harder for them right now. So you have more individuals couch surfing. We have a lot of individuals who have regular daytime jobs,
Mm-hmm.
living out of their cars,
Yeah.
right? And so, yes, we do see those individuals who may be on the side of the street. That's one section.
That's just
of
one
those.
aspect.
Yeah.
Right.
But then we also have a bigger population who are really just staying by Auntie Sue for the next couple of weeks, sleeping in their cars because I don't want to be bothered with anybody. And we just have a high population of individuals who's also being evicted from their homes as well.
Now, if you were to make an attempt to quantify that, how many people would you say are living in those situations, living in their car, couch surfing?
You know, I really don't have a number.
Right.
And I say I don't have a number because I think a needs assessment needs to be done here so that we can actually quantify that number. I know last year...
But I asked that because that's part of the reason and how you specifically
Correct.
identify a need.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Now, with those couch surfing and everything like that, we know that there's a large population. As recent as last week, I had a young lady who came to my office and she said to me that, you know, I'm not usually in the house because she's from time to time stays by her parents. But she said to me that she lives out of her car.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart really goes out to her. And now also I've met other different individuals who have come into my practice and who also sleep in their cars.
All right.
So the number is creeping up there, maybe about 1-2%, but I think the numbers are increasing because of the cost of living that's continually going up, especially in the aftermath of COVID.
Exactly. Now, how did you choose this path? Because I feel like you have a dynamic story yourself. How did you choose this path to help individuals who may be suffering from these situations?
So I have a unique story, and that story is when I was fairly young, maybe about 8-9 years of age, one of my brothers was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Right.
And so because of that, I understand what it looks like, the stigmas, the lack of education, that we had within our community. This is back in the 70s, right?
Right.
And so what we know was he would act out, and we will get him in the hospital, and then he's released. But to understand...
released but not fixed.
Correct. So we knew that he would take medication, but we didn't understand that it was a lifelong thing, right? And so from time to time, he would last maybe about 6 months to a year, doing well, and then he would go right back. And so...
now, did you find that was just Did he keep up with the medicine regimen, or just straight off on his own?
So he did keep up with the medication at some point in time. But again, like I said, we didn't know that it was supposed to be all the time.
All right, and I'm assuming at that time there was nobody that was really giving you the education necessary.
Correct. And at that time, it was really so taboo. What we used to say back then was, they gone off.
Right. Listen,
Right.
and for a time they were saying everybody going off.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And we
yes.
kind of make light of it and don't address it and make hits about it. But you know. So look at me over here. I'm asking Miss White, you remember this song? She said, yes, by What Doubly. Yes, by What Doubly, the late great.
I recognize something crazy mass, but brothers like Mousy, why they gone crazy? The first thing people think is grass. What they just do not understand. Grass alone cannot send a man off. Everybody going off. Like the people get a drop. Everybody going up. Go loud. Boom boom. Boom boom. One day while working, friends I ain't joking. Hands up on the left and right, and in less than a minute, I couldn't believe it. Man, the court was full of off man in the parking lot. When we jam, never see so much crazy man going off. Everybody going off, like the people catch a drop. Everybody going off, go loud.
So now there's a part in this song where he said, grass alone can't make a man go off, right? And there was a time where in our society, everybody that was experiencing mental illness had bad weed, you know? And it was totally diminishing what was really the source of the problem.
Right.
And through art, that was what Doubly's way of addressing and shining a light on this concern. And you're shining a light as well. Now, you have a fundraiser coming up.
Yes.
Which I believe is to help provide some of these services. How many people do you see, and how many people do you want to see? Like, you want to expand your practice to what?
So for the Clair Institute, we're proposing to see roughly about 125 individuals, really to provide them with a continuum of care. What we know in the Virgin Islands is that we may have support in varied silos, but nobody ever takes that individual to the psychiatrist or to the counselor, or to ensure that their lives are a lot more functional. So what they may do is simply say, well, okay, we're going to provide you with this. Like, for example, I have an agency that I work with, and what they told me is, Miss White, we do have individuals who live in our facilities, but they're not stable enough. So what happens is they go into their facility and they tear it up.
Right.
So then they have to go back in, evict them,
Right.
the same individuals they're trying to assist, to fix the apartment, right? So with them getting mental health support, that will allow them to be stable to remain in suitable housing.
Okay, now I would assume that preventative measures are key in mental health situations.
Yes.
Because it just continues to pile on and pile on
Yes.
and pile on until the breaking point. What would be some of those preventative measures?
So a preventative measure would be, first of all, I'm going to always say counseling. So counseling is one. But then there's also medication management. We have other different treatment modalities that we use depending on what the situation is. If there's any type of trauma, there's EMDR, there's DBT. Okay, you're probably saying to yourself,
what does that mean?
So EMDR,
I wasn't just going to say it to myself. I was going to say it to you. What does that mean?
So EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Simply, it's just a modality that we use where we kind of open up that vagal pathway in the brain and allow the
vagal pathway you are.
and allow the individual to kind of reprocess their memories. So it kind of helps them out a lot.
Really?
Yeah. And so, we have other treatment modalities that we also use. And I know there's other individuals who's coming in with ketamines to use as a way to assist individuals with treatment. There's also ECT, and I know you're going to ask me what that means, but I think it's cardio treatment. That particular treatment, it kind of allows them to be shocked into subjection, so to speak, where they're able to get like depression online and anxiety in check, right? But there's a varied numbers. Of course, in the Virgin Islands, we are limited here as to having all those varied treatments. I know there's someone who's in now, she does ketamines, and I believe you cannot do the ECT here either.
Okay.
Because I think it's, as I understand that it's, not a lot of individuals are known to it, but so it's kind of expensive to have it done.
Okay.
But we can do the EMDR. We can do those along with our other treatment modalities. So you don't just have to take medication. There's other means to get that help.
All right. But neglect and no treatment at all certainly is not the answer.
No, it's
and for many of these individuals, they can't find any of these treatments.
Correct. And it's not that they can't necessarily find them. It's a lot of times individuals don't want to go to certain places because of the stigma, because of individuals looking at them differently. And we don't want that, right? We're thinking, everybody would say, well, I don't know anybody who crazy or who off. And that's not true. We all do. Maybe you may not be aware that they have something that's going on, but we do. So, like I would say, I do have a sibling who has a mental health disorder. I also have individuals in my extended family who does as well. And it's a matter of getting them the kind of help and support. Now, with my brother who is he has a mental illness, we take care of him. We assist him in living his life to the best that he can. He may never be able to be me or one of you, right? But he is able to manage his own apartment. He can go to the grocery store and purchase groceries. He's able to go to the bank and pay his rent and other things of the sort.
Oh, nice.
He's able to live a more functional life. And so that was not always his story.
Right.
It took the family coming together and provide that type of support around him so that he's able to live a more functional life. I see people asking me about him all the time and say, Jessica, what's going on with him? Is he okay? Yeah, he's okay. He's around. But they don't see him on the street. And so that's why they're thinking, well, maybe something is up with him. No, he's okay. He lives in his own apartment and he manages himself. Now, we make sure that he takes his medication every day. But outside of that, he's doing well.
So you're living proof.
Yes.
Not just studied, but you
Correct.
have the practical assessment of this as well.
Correct.
I feel like Coco B wants to say something.
Can we talk about the different kinds of mental illnesses? Because there's such a wide range of them. Can we break down like a few so people understand the different illnesses you do help with?
Sure. One of the main ones that I work with here in the territory is depression.
Right.
And
And I think
individuals.
everybody suffers from some of that.
Right. So when I first came back, in 17, everybody was like, when I would diagnose individuals, there was a lot of depression, and I thought to myself, I was like, oh my goodness, this can't be right. So I would go back to the DSM, Diagnostic
Which means, yes.
Statistical Manual. I would go back to it and say, okay, nah, this can't be true. But I would go over all the symptomology, and it was indeed spot on. And so I asked another doctor, I said, hey, tell me something. Have you found that a lot of individuals are diagnosed with depression? And she said, yes, Jessica, there's like a black cloud here. So I was like, okay, wow. But let me share how depression looks like here. Depression looks like a lot of anger and irritability
Right.
in individuals.
And at times in the Virgin Islands, there's a lot to be angry about.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. However, they would tell you point blank, nah, that's not me. Me angry, but all their body posture and
Right.
everything shows that they are angry. They're quite moody. That's a part of it. They're helpless. They're hopeless. They feel like life will never change. They're sad often, and they feel worthless. They tend to have difficulty sleeping at times. And lots of them have suicidal ideation. You would think that that's not a thing here, right? But it really is. And I see it all the time where individuals, they'll say things like, I wish I wasn't here, or if I wasn't here, my family would be better off without me. And perhaps if I just go to sleep and never wake up, things will change. All of those are suicidal thoughts.
Right.
So that's depression, and we do experience a lot of that here. Okay, you look like you have a question.
So I'm gonna say something. I'm letting out all of my business today. So I have actually had depression before. So when I moved my life really quickly from Orlando to Chicago, I actually had depression for 3 months. I cried all the time. I was a mess. And most people who see me now, I'm really, really bubbly. So it's like, that girl never depressed. She never sad. She never anything. But I've learned that depression is really, as you said, like a thought of hopelessness, really like you missed out on something.
Right.
And then I would have anxiety every now and again because I'm living in the future much
Right.
faster instead of being more present.
Present.
So we were talking about eclipses and full moons and releasing, and
Oh, boy.
exercises like that is what helped me get through because I can still go into that.
I was just going to ask you, so how did you work through it?
So, spiritual practices, meditating, yoga, understanding what it is. So if you understand what things are, you can get to the root of it. So again,
Correct.
depression is really thinking about, I missed out on something. I'm really, I didn't get to do something. My life is horrible. It'll never get better, as she said. And then when you have the anxiousness, I used to have panic attacks every now and again. Is because I was like, okay, well, I have to do this, and this has to happen now, and I don't have time, and I have to do it right now.
Right.
So once you're able to understand what's going on, you can adjust it. But if you don't really know the signs,
Correct.
you can't fix them.
So I jokingly said I'm going to make her my personal shaman this morning. But everybody needs like a spiritual advisor. Not necessarily to go to church,
Right.
but just to manage your thoughts.
Right.
What are some of the practices that you would encourage individuals on their own to implement into their lives?
So I always say mindfulness is something that's excellent, I find. We live in a society where we're always on the go. We're so stimulated. Like this watch I have on my hand, it buzzes. So while I'm on air, I had to simply put on Do Not Disturb.
Right.
Because it just keeps you just anxious all the time.
Okay.
Our cell phones keeps us anxious. The
Right.
TV, computers, everything keeps us anxious. So mindfulness is simply saying, I'm just going to shut all of this down.
All right.
And I'm just going to be present and listen to myself breathe and be present with my thoughts.
All right. So you're from the old school, right? We a little more hardcore than this new generation of folk. But I feel like this generation is more in touch with their mental wellness and will put you on timeout so they could have some timeout. And sometimes as an employer, it doesn't really bode well for responsibilities and the things you have to accomplish at a workplace.
Right.
What do you see as the difference between now and when we were growing up?
Oh boy. So when we were growing up, a lot of things that we did, we were always seen as being rude
Right.
and disrespectful. There's so much I can say about that. But nowadays, even now they still say that the kids are rude.
Right.
They still tell them that. But they are a lot more in tune, as you mentioned. They really are much more in tune. They have so much more at their fingertips. I remember when my daughter had her first iPhone, and she would download all these apps, and I thought to myself, what? Why are you? She had the apps for everything.
Right.
So we have the app for calm. We have the apps for motivational
Right.
sayings, right?
Yes, I have that app.
So they have all these things at their fingertips.
I have the sleep app. Does not work for me.
It doesn't work for you.
Help me with. See, she has it too. Calm. I can't meditate at all. Can everybody meditate? You know, like how did I say?
So-
Everybody could go to school. Some people need vocational. Like, I can't do it.
I would say this, that you can. It's just going to take you a little bit more time.
Okay.
You're probably that individual who is always on the go. And I recall the very first time that I did it, I fell right to sleep.
Oh, really?
I fell asleep.
Jealous.
Why? Because when your brain is always on go and you stop, you like totally pause it,
Jealous.
that's sleep.
Okay. All right. I can't do it. I've tried. And I've
So-
failed miserably.
So tell me what happens.
Nothing. I just stay up and I'm like, I like, impossible. I can't do it. I can't make my mind stop. Like these people, first of all, this is only like her second week here, right? And immediately came like on a mission, like, oh, you don't sleep? I'm gonna help you sleep.
Okay.
Now I've had some friends, right? Give me some marijuana pills just so I could sleep. No! Yin and yang of every possible argument at the same time. It doesn't work for me.
So I think for you, maybe some other calming techniques may need to be present.
Somebody to rub my foot.
If that's what calms you down, yes.
Oh, okay.
If that's what calms you down. But there are a lot of things that calm us down. Like, for example, if you're constantly listening to music that's upbeat all the time,
Right.
that's going to keep you on edge all the time. So, maybe there may be some lavender bath that you may need to take. Maybe some chamomile tea. A variety of things may need to take place
None
to
of it
calm you
works.
down.
You know what?
To calm
I
you
should
down.
be your project. If you could fix me, you can fix anybody. Okay, so now as a licensed certified counselor,
Yes.
I'm assuming you have employees?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so as we talk about this awareness with the mental health and taking a mental health day, as an employer, how do you feel when you have an employee that says to you,
Boss, I'm not coming to work today. I can't see. No, nothing wrong with my eyes. I just can't see myself coming to work today. Thank you. In other words, I ain't not doing one today. Don't tell me about work, I out on the road today. Me and some pretty I out on the boat today. I don't care what time of day it is, I'm drinking rum today. Having fun today. Yeah.
So how do you maintain that balance, and allow people that time when you have responsibility? Now that this could be in your household.
Right.
Hey ma, I don't feel like washing these dishes right now. I need a mental health break. First of all, my mother would. Anyway, that's child abuse. That's a whole different discussion. How do you manage that?
So in the office, I am always big on sharing with my staff to take care of themselves.
Okay.
If you are constantly giving of yourself, there's no way you can give of yourself without taking care of you first.
Right. Okay. So go ahead. So I'm gonna take this as a teaching moment. Not too many mental health days, Coco B. Okay, so yeah, you must take care of yourself. Go ahead, yeah. Gather yourself. We good. Me and Coco B could talk. You don't come here all the time. We talk to each other all the time. So Coco B.
Yes, sir.
How do you manage, especially considering that you have suffered with depression? How do you manage your responsibilities, because you have a few, even outside of here? How do you manage those responsibilities while managing your own mental health without letting down the people who are dependent on you?
So because I have already been there, it's really easily for me to slip into that space. So I have to be really aware of what's going on with me mentally. Making sure that I am pouring into myself, like Jessica said. And that's different ways. Like yesterday, I spent the day at the beach for a little bit. My body was aching me over the weekend because we were going.
My body
Lord.
aching.
Everything aching. But I had to go to the beach, and the beach is my safe place. I am a water sign, so I had to water my water sign. And pretend I was Ariel in the water all day yesterday.
Not Ariel.
I just saying.
Okay, Little Mermaid. All right. So how would you, as a certified counselor, edified, a professional in this field, what would you recommend?
So for myself, just like she mentioned, I was not aware of this, but I like the beach.
I hate the beach. See, again, how are y'all gonna fix me? I don't go in the water. Go ahead. You know what I mean? I don't, like, I'm the guy that goes to the beach in all these clothes and don't ever set foot in the water. And I'm totally cool with it.
So it's not, for me, it's not necessarily going into the water.
Right.
Because I can just sit there and I can watch the water and I can feel the cool breeze and hear the waves, right? The crashing of the waves. And that does something to me mentally.
Okay. So,
And it kind of brings me back to my center. It allows me to kind of rejuvenate, right?
so you just discovered that you like the beach?
A couple years ago, yes.
Okay, so you grew up here.
Yes.
And why didn't you like the beach before?
I didn't, not that I didn't like it. I'm just now discovering that it's my happy place.
Oh, so it's therapeutic.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And so before, I would go to the beach and
Just
I would
to go.
spend hours in the water. But now I can, if I have had a difficult day, I can simply just go to the beach and just gaze out there.
So we encourage everybody to find a happy place.
Yes.
And a happy thing.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be the beach.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And it's always good to figure out what your sign is. So you're an Aries. Maybe we need to fly out the plane.
You're Aries?
Yes.
No.
I am too. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we doing for our birthday?
I'm not sure because I
okay.
have to travel.
Well, take me with you. That's what we're doing for our birthday.
I have to travel.
Okay,
She's
awesome.
airing her air sign in the air with the plane.
Oh, all right. That's what that is. So do you find that astrology and those things, I don't really subscribe, but do you find that they're grounded in how people react and behave to certain things?
You know, there's a lot of people who believe in that. That is not really my thing.
Okay.
But I would honestly say, though, that there are times when the full moon comes around and a lot of things happen during that time. So I believe that there's something to it, but I have never really gotten into that.
Okay, so you're more curriculum based in your findings and your teachings. What's your experience?
Yes, I am theoretical based.
Right.
So I go based on the theory. For me, the treatment modality that most aligns with me is more cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
along with person-centered. And I think because of my person-centered ways, that's just thinking that the person should have total control of their lives,
Right.
and that we should treat them with love and respect, providing them with the necessary tools that's needed. I think out of that is where I feel my desire to do the Clair Institute came about.
Okay.
Because I believe individuals can definitely heal themselves if given the right tools and opportunity environment that would be able to foster that healing.
Were you practicing before you returned home?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
what made you decide to come back home on a holistic?
So, I always said that I wanted to go into practice. I would always see individuals where I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. And one day I was driving to work. And while I was driving, I thought to myself, why am I doing all of this for these individuals when we need the same care at
Right.
home,
Right.
And so at that time, I think it was initially birthed inside of me. And then after that, I recognized, I think there was somebody who had harmed their mom, right? I think it was maybe in 2016 or something. And ever since then, I've been on a crusade to come back, to give back to the Virgin Islands, my gifts and my talents, because I know, yes, a way we can use it, but who's giving back here?
Right.
And so, again, with having the cultural competence, that sensitivity
Right.
gives me the opportunity to provide the gifts and skills, knowing and understand what our culture says,
Right.
and what will fly and what won't fly.
So in your practice, do you feel like there's a cultural difference that requires a different approach?
Absolutely, because our people in our community do not believe in medication. They don't, and so it has taken some time where individuals sometimes need that help, right? They need somebody to say, listen, I don't necessarily agree, I don't like medication for myself personally, but at times we need it to kind of help us balance out. If you have high blood pressure, what are you going to do? Are you going to take the high blood pressure medication? I'm more than sure you will.
Right.
If you have diabetes, are you going to take diabetic medication?
Right.
Yes, you will.
Right.
So if you have cancer, all of these different things.
Right.
So what happens when the mind is off balance? When that hormonal imbalance takes place, what are you going to do to kind of recalibrate yourself? Sometimes we need to.
Right.
So, it takes a lot of a gentle dance sometimes that I have to do with them, but I understand where they're coming from. And so my approach is simply, listen, let's try this first. And if this doesn't work, then we can go to medication.
So funny you'd say that, right? Like I know individuals who we're sponsored by Neighborhood Pharmacy,
Okay.
right? But I also know individuals who, because they're so private, they would
Yeah.
get their medication from the States
Yes, sir.
and send people to the pharmacy to pick up their prescription and then point in the mail. And how do we eliminate that mindset for our own wellness? Is that part of?
So what needs to be done is having that awareness to remove the stigma. Just like you played the song with Afman, it's a stigma. Nobody wants to be seen as that individual who has bipolar disorder. But we know that a lot of individuals do.
Right.
I took a client to the hospital, and the physician who spoke to that client said, hey, I have bipolar disorder myself.
Oh, wow.
But here's what I found. I have found that this particular medication works for me. It's up to you to find that one that works
For you, right? Right.
So with us removing that stigma to say that, listen, you just simply have to find that one that works for you. Sometimes we do need that medication that will help. Sometimes we need to step outside of the box and do things that we didn't think was necessary to do. Sometimes it takes us changing jobs.
Right.
Believe it or not.
So I was just going to ask you though, like if I go in to fill out an application and I'm like, hey, I suffer from bipolar disorder, in my mindset, I might be like, this might inhibit me from getting this job. Whereas the doctor that said I'm bipolar, I as a patient might be like, well, I hope you're having a good day today. Like, you know what I mean? So so how do you find that balance?
But that's the misconception, because not because I'm diagnosed with
Right.
bipolar disorder means that I am out of sorts,
Right.
right? That I'm acting out every single time. And that's what the medication does. The medication does stabilize you. So although you have that particular thing, or for example, even with diabetics, right? Yes, they take medication every day, but does their sugar spike every day? No. It doesn't.
Right.
So we have to educate. We have to do a much better
Right.
job at educating around mental illness, around taking care of ourselves, around mental wellness, around self-care, so that we can take care of ourselves. Now, I would say though, I would not put on an application that I have bipolar disorder.
Right.
I just won't. Hopefully, if we have it in check, then you wouldn't have to worry about
Right.
that. But it's important to do a lot more education. And this is what the Sinclair Institute proposes to do for those individuals.
Okay, so now the Sinclair Institute that's proposing this for these individuals, but
Yes.
clearly, just based on our discussion, the greater community needs some education as well.
Yes.
How do you get that message out? Is this something like we could go to the Department of Education and put some sort of thing in the curriculum to help students identify and how they could help those that need help, or even help themselves?
You know, now that you asked that question, I'm just thinking what I've done for churches, and I've shared with them, hey, listen, what you want to do is to educate your congregation about mental health at every juncture, so that you're not making it out to be taboo, right? You know, in churches say, well, just pray about it and
Right.
everything will be well. Well, we know that that's not always the case, right? So I think that has to be the same thing in schools as well, where we are just simply educating the staffing so that they can take care of themselves. And that's one thing I've discovered. We have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of our children.
Yeah.
And so if they're taking care of themselves and regulating well, they're able to pass that on to children. But you mentioned about in the curriculum, and I think if we can add it in the curriculum in terms of, hey, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of the way we talk to people, how we treat individuals. We talk about bullying. We talk about peer pressure. We talk about all those things, and we can incorporate it in the class curriculum. When the teachers teach, they talk about those things and have it at the forefront. So when they come out, it's not like, oh, okay, I didn't know that's what that was. I was being bullied, you know?
But I feel like now children are overly stimulated.
Yes.
The things that they have access to on their phones, having to manage all of this stimuli when they aren't mentally prepared for it.
Right.
It seems like now more than ever, we need to have some kind of mental wellness in the curriculum in terms of body shape, image, all these things where you identify this as beautiful based on this Instagram model.
Right.
I saw a young lady talking to her mom the other day, and I swear, like, this behavior was totally influenced by things she saw on TikTok. The mannerisms, the way she enunciated things was all influenced by her Bible, TikTok. And I really feel like we should do some more managing, because mental wellness is a compounding thing. It gets progressively worse and worse and worse. And if not treated at the onset, it could become a major problem.
Right. And, you know, as you mentioned that, I consider the storms of 2017, I keep saying it, that a lot of people have been impacted since then. and have not been treated, right? We have those individuals.
Right.
And then we have COVID that came about, and some individuals still have not been treated. And so because of that, we live on edge. We constantly live on edge. And so it's important for us to really to address those things. Early intervention, we know, is the best prevention. The old people say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, right? So it's important for us to catch it early. I know there's different initiatives in the school right now where they're doing pre-screening for students and stuff like that, just so that they're able to kind of get out those risk factors that may be prevalent or may be present that sometimes maybe the parents may not be aware of. But those screenings can go a long way, because now once they've told them, well, hey, listen, maybe Johnny has this so-and-so issue, maybe he needs to talk to somebody, right? That early prevention is worth all. It's best.
So in between our two broadcasts from Kmart on St. Croix on Friday, I actually had to speak to counselors, high school counselors at the University of the Virgin Islands on St. Croix, and I said, I know the counselors need counseling too. So when people offload all their energies on you, good and bad and indifferent, as a certified counselor, how important is it for you to disengage, to remove those things from your life, because they could then become a burden to you, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It can cause me to get what we call in the field compassion fatigue.
Right. There you go.
Compassion fatigue. Just like, military people and stuff. But it's important for counselors to have their own counselor, to talk with someone, have an outlet where they can download all of that information. There are times when I'm finished with a client and I'm like,
right,
oh my God, that was a lot.
Right.
And so it takes me some time to kind of regulate and get myself back together. So I have a system where, I go walking, I do that. Also, I put in my AirPods and I just listen to gospel music. That kind of helps me get centered. And I exercise a lot because that helps me as well. But it is important for us to go ahead and get that added support.
Right. Okay, so for some parents at home, they are the counselor. You know what I mean? They have to take in what is going on with their husband or wife or their children and their issues and concerns. And sometimes nobody ain't taking the time to realize this person that you're dumping all this stuff on may need a detox of their own.
I like that, the detox. But it's true, because we are like the receptacle of everybody's problems. And the truth is, what I tell clients is, you don't have to wear the cape every day.
Right.
Take the cape off.
Right.
Right? And take care of you. And it's so important to do that, because if you take care of yourself, then helping others becomes so much more easier.
Indeed.
Yes.
So Ms. White, I spoke to you in depth to exhibit the boundless knowledge and experience you have in this field, because you do have a fundraiser coming up.
Yes.
And I feel like it is important to give a background on somebody who's trying to get some money for something that they're capable of handling the money when they get. Now, ultimately, if you was to have your wish, how much money would you raise? And you don't necessarily have to answer that, but the more important component of my question is, what would you do with it? If you were to hit that target mark, what would you do with the money?
So, well, I'm glad that you asked that question. So, there's two main things, right? Well, what we know first and foremost is, in order for us to have any type of program, it costs to do so, right? To have the trained individuals to run these things. But we've been gifted a facility on St. Thomas to assist individuals. So this,
where is it?
So it's in Savon.
Okay.
So that particular facility we're retrofitting it to be able to have a few things inside of there. The first thing is, we're gonna have showers for individuals who need that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Secondly, we're going to have a computer room to equip individuals with job readiness.
Okay.
You would not believe individuals sometimes who are on the street or who have mental challenges does not have an email address.
Right.
Do you know how you apply for jobs now?
Right. Exactly.
Online. So we have to help them to get there because they need it, right?
Okay.
If they're going to be productive. So that's another thing. We also have a clothing rack for individuals to get clothes.
Right.
And also we are going to have a recreation center inside. Well, when I say recreation
Sounds like a big
center,
facility.
it is a big house.
Nice.
But, and they'll be able to have one-on-one counseling, group sessions that they're able to have. One of the things that individuals in this position always are concerned with is there anybody else like me? Because they feel so isolated. And so it's important for them to be around other individuals who may experience the same thing as they do.
Right.
And so I think that's most important for them, to have other individuals around them who are dealing with the same thing.
Okay, so now you mentioned earlier in our discussion, though, individuals who are not necessarily ready was the word that you used, and they destroy the apartment that they rent. How do you prevent against that? Like, how do you make sure that all of these great resources you're providing aren't damaged by somebody who's not necessarily ready for those amenities?
And so, as you mentioned, that what will be important is to provide them with that support. So what we know is a lot of individuals who damage those facilities may have some type of psychotic disorder. And what's a psychotic disorder? Those individuals who hear the voices and who see things that's not present, right? And so they're in these facilities and they hear these voices. Imagine hearing like 100 different people talking to you at once, right? And they're telling you stuff like, if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you, or this is going to happen there. You got to save yourself. And so they do it because they fall powerless to those voices. And so when we have conversation or when we have counseling with them, we're able to help them weed out what is true and what is not true. We're able to allow them to take their medication, maybe get their monthly shot, so that they can be stabilized, that can reduce those voices that they hear. So that would be something that's very, very important for them, because if they're able to have the counseling, that continuum of care, they're able to be a lot more functional and recognize the symptoms when they're going off rails, as opposed to just simply acting out in the facility.
Right. Now I'm a I don't know. Do you like hip hop at all? Are you just an old school, more gospel?
Hip hop is fine.
Okay, so I'm a Kanye West fan, right?
Okay.
And there's a song, I think it's Joyner Lucas, is "Yay Not Crazy," but there are things early on, like in early Kanye works, that indicated that he has these issues, and then it became progressively worse. And then he got more and more money, and then saying whatever he wants, whenever he wants, was okay because he you know what I mean? But I saw how it compounded. Or somebody like Nicki Minaj, who says she has all these personalities and Roman. If it wasn't for wealth, if it wasn't for, like, I'm convinced Eminem would have been a serial killer if he wasn't as good of a rapper that he was. You know what I mean? The things that he said in his early records, and probably got over his substance abuse issues, which he admitted to having. All of these things start off as a little thing, sometimes very entertaining things.
Correct.
But if not treated, could turn into a problem.
Something much bigger. Yeah, absolutely. And now here's the next thing, though. But you mentioned something important where you talk about Eminem. Individuals who hear voices and all these things, and they're not sure what to do with them. So they use substances to quiet them. Right? And so we tend to say, like, oh my God, that person did this, they did that. But there's a reason behind of that.
Right.
If I know that if I smoke weed, I don't have to deal with all this added stuff, I'm going to smoke the weed.
Right.
Right? So what, is important is that individuals who are experiencing these different things, it's important for us to support them and help them to see that there is indeed a different way, and they don't have to be powerless to maybe substances or all these other things that they've used in the past.
And in many instances, these individuals who suffer from these things turn out to be extremely talented and creative as well.
That's probably why.
Older reference would be Nina Simone. Like, you know what I mean? But I digress. So when is the fundraiser? Where is the fundraiser?
So the fundraiser is going to be at Coral World
on nice.
April 6th, which is Vintage Vogue, a night of opulence.
Opulence.
Yes.
You know what I've learned in this interview? Your vocabulary is vast and stellar.
So, but we are doing it there, and we're going to have the Gatsby theme.
Okay.
So we want individuals to come on out and support the St. Clair Insititute, because I think it's important for us to provide that support for this vulnerable population, where we can have effective programs that would be able to support them. We know that there are issues within our community regarding homelessness and mental health concerns, substance use disorder, and prison aftercare, the lack of thereof.
Right.
But we know that it's there, but the magnitude we really don't know, and that's what we are wanting to do, and to support those individuals in that regard. So this fundraiser is not just us giving money to another nonprofit. It is an investment in our community.
And something that is very needed, by the way.
Yes, it is. I am in private practice, right? But this is a part of, and the reason I got into the nonprofit additionally is because I have found that, I always lead with my heart more than anything else.
Right.
And so when individuals come to my office and they don't have insurance, I'm like, listen, don't worry about it. Just come.
So you're like the hospital. You ain't denying anybody no care.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I want them to come because I know it. I believe so much in counseling that I prefer them to come and they can get worked on what they need to, and then they can be better off.
All right. And where can we find you if we need you?
So I am in the VA medical.
And wait. She did not crazy either, but I do have my moments. So a guy like me could come see you too?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely,
cool.
absolutely.
So then tell me where to find your buddy.
So I am in the VI Medical Foundation building. Okay. I'm on the second floor, suite 210. And we are there. Our number, I'll give that, 340-774-2932. And that is my private practice. And St. Clair Insititute is 774-2972. They have a dedicated line that allows individuals to call directly who are uninsured and who's having all those different challenges that we've had. Now, what you're probably asking is, homeless people, they're not going to come to the office. They don't. So we have to go out in the community and serve them so that they can feel a lot more comfortable. So
one of the things that you could probably use for funding is an outreach vehicle.
Yes,
absolutely. Maybe a outfitted van where you could, I don't know what you'd put in there, but a couch or I don't know what you...
Haircuts, hair
wash. Yes. So, those are all things that we're proposing to have in the home. One thing I didn't mention was a food pantry, because remember we talked about those who couch surf and stuff.
Right.
There may be more month without the money kind of thing. And so we want to be able to provide them with that.
Okay.
Because yes, there are programs that, DHS, they have SNAP programs and stuff like that.
Right.
But oftentimes individuals may not qualify because rent is so high.
Okay, so now, and that's where I think people don't realize, it's a very thin line between sanity and insanity.
Yeah.
A very thin line between a very entertaining post and things just going off the rails.
Yeah.
And I feel like with social media, it's the gift and the curse. Because on social media, you follow certain people, you can see signs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm not here to politicize what those incidents that happened.
Right.
With the young man that killed his father, I had a little run-in with him when he was asking for some money at my favorite white truck on the waterfront that I eat there 3 times a day. And he was asking for money, and I ended up giving it to him.
Right.
But to see where this went, to see that there were early signs on a Facebook page that may have possibly, if addressed and attended to, would have prevented the loss of a young woman's life, a young girl's life. I feel like we need to be more attentive to our friends and our family and the signs that they're giving us. Because usually people don't just come out and say,
Correct.
hey, I need help on them. It normally doesn't happen like that.
That is true. But I think we've been so desensitized to it, though.
Correct.
We've been desensitized, and so we often see posts, and we become cynical to what is out there. And we're like, nah, they need no help. I see she the other day, and she was all dressed up.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the mask that they wear at times, right? So it's important for us to pay attention. And I know we're probably saying, well, no, we don't want to be like, I'm monitoring anybody posts, but you can clearly see sometimes signs that individuals are not doing well.
Right.
But again, awareness is important, educating individuals as to what you can do and what you can say.
Speaking of posts, so I'm not going to call this particular person out too much, but there's someone that I saw that their post was weird. Like they were in live, doing some interesting things, and it seems like people were reaching out saying, hey, are you okay? Like, what's going on? This is strange behavior for you. But then they were like, no, I'm fine, leave me alone, I'm good. But clearly something was up. For things like that, how do you suggest for us to be able to help those that are not noticing that they need help?
So I would say that they do need help, yes, and they are indeed aware that they need help. It's just the way in which we are approaching them, right? So if it's somebody who I don't talk to, and you come on to ask me, so what's going on with you?
Right.
Am I going to be open to that? No, I'm not going to be receptive to that. But if it's somebody that talks to me often and hasn't shunned me in the past, I'm going to be like, yeah, but you know, I'm struggling with blah, 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 but I just don't really know how. So it just depends on the relationship.
Right.
And ostracizing folks. What we've done a lot with social media, we've ostracized people. And this is just me talking about even in the midst of COVID. And I would tell people, listen, COVID came in, but we can still pick up the phone. Do not send a text. Pick up the phone. And when possible, video call. You know, these kids walk around with their cell phones all day, every day. They come to my office and they have their person on video, right? Call them, video call, and try to keep in contact with individuals. That's definitely going to be important. Keeping relationships open, talking to individuals, because there's a lot of people, more than we know, are hurting.
All right. For anybody like Facebook friends of anybody who's I feel like sometimes I see a post from somebody or even a live.
Yeah.
Or prayer warriors mount up. Don't ask no question. Just pray for me. It's like what are you doing? Okay. But I need everybody on the other end of that post to realize that you might not be that right person that they want to talk to, but there is a right person in that audience that they're willing to speak to. I don't think the don't ask no questions isn't for everybody. They got about 2 or 3 people that they want to hear from.
That is true. It is true, because I know I've had in the past where people, they would say things and I'm like, whoa, okay, that don't sound like them. Let me pick up the phone and let me call.
Right.
And that's what I do. I pick up the phone and I call. And I'm like, okay, everything okay?
Right.
You all right? What's up?
So
And
you're
I-
not
and-
just a
and I-
counselor, but you're a friend. And as a
Yes,
friend to
yes,
people, you have to do
yes.
this.
And I don't necessarily have to ask them what's going on. You know, I may just simply share just little nuggets. And that's what I do. You know, I've spoken to several people and, you know, I may have heard them say something and I'm like, okay, how do I approach it? Maybe we don't have that type of relationship.
Right.
So I would just simply say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm just calling you to share with you, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Last week, this is what I noticed happen, or somebody shared this with me and I just thought that I would share this nugget with you.
Right.
And I have done that and they walk away like, how did she know that this was what I needed? And they've come back to me, hey, Jessica, that's something that I needed. I didn't know that you were aware. I was like, yeah, I do see it. I may not say something, but I see. And we all see,
Right.
you know? But it's important for those people who are a part of our village, who we know, to always share and spread love and positivity, you know?
You look the kind of person that I would love to talk to. So, which also reminds me, I owe my counselor money. But if indeed somebody listening today had the same inkling, like, yo, this seems like somebody great to talk to, give us your contact information again. Also, give us some information on the fundraiser as well. And maybe I can't attend, but I just want to contribute to the cause. How do I go about doing that?
Sure. So let me start first and foremost with the number. That number is 340-774-2972. The fundraising gala, like I said, it's an investment in our community. And anyone in this listening to my voice, they can definitely go to our website, www.clairinstitute.org, and they can donate. We also have a PayPal link on top of the website as well, that they can purchase tickets as well. Now, we are also having tickets at the office if anybody is so inclined. You know, there's some of us who are old school,
Right.
like Sheedy. So,
Wow! did she just call me old?
oh, no, absolutely not.
I don't know that I want to talk to you anymore.
So we do have, we actually have actual tickets
Okay.
to put in your hand, and you can actually get those from the office.
Okay.
This fundraiser, again, it goes directly to impact the community with programs, assessments, all these things, so that we can help our homeless and that indigent population who does not have care, everyday care. And I think that's going to definitely be important. Now, I would be remiss if I do not mention my board,
All right.
because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Jessica, you did not mention the board. But we do have a board, and the board is comprised of several people within the community. We have Brenda Henley, Gilderoy Sprav, Melanie Gomez, Hadia Charles, Shinika Foy, Olsen Ford. All of them are concerned with what happens in our community. And we're led by executive director. Her name is Rosemary Ellison. And Sierra Joshua, one of our program directors. All of these individuals have been instrumental in taking us to from where we were, just a thought in my mind to give back to the community, to where we are today. Now, the April 6th is proposed to be a night of opulence where we're going to be under the stars at the Coral World. So it's going to be a great evening. We're having, I did not even mention.
The entertainment.
Yes, Desretta Jackson.
Nice.
You know, the lady from The Color Purple, the original. She's going to be here. And
Nice.
she's going to be our keynote speaker, along with Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach.
Right.
He's going to also be there, and he's going to be presenting to
He's a
us.
great speaker too, by the way.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So, and we have our MCs. We have Sheldon Turnbull.
Nice.
Nicole, Dr. Sims.
All
Nicole
right.
Sims.
Oh, great.
As well as Lillian
That's one of my
Molinar.
favorite people.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Oh, yeah.
So, so they will all be there on hand. They were hand selected because of who they are,
Right.
and their interest in behavioral health and promoting our community as it relates to that. So, we're excited. We're super excited in having this night. But more importantly, we're hoping that individuals come out and bring their checkbooks. Now, I know people don't really walk with checkbooks as much as before.
Now you old school.
but no, I didn't have checks for a very long time.
Okay.
But anyway.
I didn't have money for a very long time. But
Okay.
I still don't have money.
Okay. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, it's about us giving back. We're gonna have a silent auction that we're gonna have several items there for auction that have been donated so that individuals can give back to our community. So,
well, thank you for spending some time with us this morning, Ms. White. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. Wishing you the best of luck because it is for a great cause. It's for a necessary cause, and I do hope that you are able to be empowered to a point where you can do more of the things you want to do. So thank you so much for coming through. I feel like this is a good way to end today's discussion.